It's past midnight, so I'm having a break, and I want to talk about really many things, and there's a lack of time to sort of make something of it, and sometimes in the end it feels like when it's regarding a specific topic, it kind of feels passé very soon afterwards. So I'm trying to sort of get down to the point of something, or to get as deep as I have the time in a video, basically. So I'm coming to you on this 720 resolution with the earphone sound quality, and I want to talk about, let's put it correctly, when you have a lack of examples, when you have a lack of inspiration of how things are done, the delusional effect in the people's minds create even more delusion, because everybody then has only their own delusional idea of something as to solve something in reality out there, right? For example, countries which have a high rate of divorces. You have less and less people with the reference point of having a coherent kind of traditional family. And in the long run, if that goes on, in my kind of idea for this video is that you will have more theoretical ideas about what the family is, as compared to having a practical example. In the same way, some artists, who makes marble statues and things. I mean, I can't read that in a book and apply myself, really. I need to see somebody do something. I need to have examples. So in that case of family life and so on, very simplistically, you will have more of fifth generation feminists in one hand, and you have more of fifth generation of confused, super quasi conservative men, basically, because none of them will have a decent example of what it is to combine, live together, and flip-flop and use your masculinity, your femininity, recognize the masculinity or femininity in your partner, combine that, make that a stronger unity and so on. That will lack, because they all have a reference point is to divorces and so on, so they can only wish for something they romanticize. The fifth generation feminist of the future might romanticize some kind of a super individualistical, I don't know, you don't need anybody to fulfill yourself, while the super quasi-conservative fifth generation man will sort of idealize some kind of fantasy construct of life in the middle-aged farms or something. I'm just making things up now. And they have both gone astray from the sort of reasonable, natural flow of how things are happening, basically. And this is the case for many things, I can just take myself as an example. If I haven't seen examples of people pursuing their interests by themselves, with their families, and many other things, I would have not seen it was possible, because we need to see something, and then go with our own life towards that direction, I'm not necessarily talking about role models and stuff, but just examples. And when you have, for me, it's kind of obvious, and I don't know what more examples to give. I try to give as sort of easy, simple examples, but it's a tendency today in a world when we can satisfy everything we want. For example, we are animals, right? So we want to have some kind of excitement. We want to use our bodies, our smell, our eyes, our ears, and so on. They are there for a reason, but we don't do anything. We don't have any fear or flight emotions. So we consume subscriptions and watch TV series, and they all are the same, from Sopranos to Game of Thrones. Always the same narrative. The costumes, the times are different. Even the actors are the same. And it's sort of filling in this, or programming the viewers with the kind of cold, sociopathic elements. Like, you can come home to someone and everything seems normal, but on the TV screen there's a corpse lying on an examination table, and everybody's so serious, and it's kind of a gray, unnatural light, or somebody's having their throat cut open. So people get used to that, and people also get used to, in those series, to dislike a character, then start to like that character, and then dislike the character again, all with the kind of flip-flopping in the mind and programming. So when it's time for an election year, everybody's sort of rebooted and can accept to once again be interested in the same parties, the same politicians, the same ideas, which have lied to them, abused them, cheated them for the last 4 years. But it's all sort of resetted. And everything is programmed in a sense. So my point is, when we have the lack of being exposed to fulfillment for some kind of a natural desire, we either make up our own theoretical grounds and sort of want to apply that to the real world, and it happens. I mean, you look at all the isms and the ideologies that have, and religions, organized religions throughout history, which have been, people have their visions, and suddenly they get golden weapons, so disaster follows. And weapons and gold can be can end up in many hands, basically. So the more a person is distanced from real kind of interaction with outside of the head, outside of this wet, dampy place inside, you only have your senses to connect with the world. But to put it in this way, the more distance you are, the more you are living in conceptual reality. And I remember this when I used to work in an organic food shop. People would sort of stare at, red quinoa, yellow quinoa, which one is better? And I said, like, it's just aesthetical. Try the black quinoa, black quinoa, ha ha ha. Because they would read the kind of nutritional values. Let's say it says like 17 grams of protein in 100 grams. They think, oh, I get 17, but it all depends on the day, what you're eating, and so on. But the conceptual mind, or conceptual, the delusional, or the theoretical element here, whatever you want to call it, the further you are away from dealing with things, the more conceptual and theoretical you are, basically. So yeah, and that's a tendency. It goes for many walks of life. As I mentioned, family life, divorces, no examples for family life. You get a generation of people who, in the extreme, in the fringe, will sort of find some super alternative ideas, all based from their insights here and not from the actual interaction with another person or family. I mean, how many of those, I mentioned 5th generation feminists, but let's say 3rd wave, how many of them have, family lives and so on, and go through that? Or the other category of men who are on the other side of that fringe, and so on. And you can apply this to everything, everything that we do in a 10-day period for ourselves in our lives as a collective. Things we lack, we put in through various kind of external methods. and we make something of it. TV series for me is one great example of a total demonstration. I mean, it's a symptom of how much is lacking, you know. It's not even a 10th representation of reality. And when you have seen like 3 series, you have seen them all basically. As I said, the time will change, the costumes will change, maybe a new actor will come up, but it will all be the same twist. You know, you have a power position, somebody wants to get to that power, who's going to backstab who is the sympathetic group of characters this season as opposite to the next, and it goes on and on and on. And you know, that's a kind of a programming for the majority to be willing to accept the sociopathic rule that the powers to be have. This video might have been all over the place. Yeah, it's just a video anyway, but my main thing to mention was basically when you don't have an example in society, in your city, in your country, in your culture, of something, people will will make up for that theoretically, you know, through all these kind of mind things, and they will dwell further and further into their interpretations and delusions, and then they will sort of, you will have groupings, one thinks this, one thinks that, one da 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 da, and in the end, most of them themselves have no real interaction with reality. So, and the less examples we have of many things, or as it was so important, I missed to mention it, not only examples, but the access to them, you know, like, of course, we can say on the internet you can find everything, but basically, yeah, people have little time, they have many obligations to do, they are mostly exposed to what is being programmed to them, and their entertainment is, as I said, through all these subscriptions to Netflix and so on. So their access is possible, but very how do you say, not dissolved, but yeah, you know, you throw out everything so people can't sort of focus and find what's good, what's bad, in a sense. Yeah, that was that for this work break. Take care and all the best. Have a great Sunday. Ciao.